Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to the podcast. It's just me and Heather today from the Travel Bug Girls, and we are going to be talking about summer escapes, your guide to the hottest summer destinations. So, I know it's kind of like coming up on that time where actually it's a little past that time. If you're just now thinking about your summer trip, you are a little behind. I am a little behind.
True. It's really, let's just start there. I think that's a great place to start, Kimmy. When should you book a summer vacation? That's a great place to start.
Probably when you're on your Christmas vacation, honestly.
I think
December, January.
I agree. Like when your family's all together anyway, and you're gathering at the end of the year and you're starting to think about like, hey, we should do this more often. That is exactly when you guys should sit down and book your family vacation.
Yeah.
Or like I had a friend once that she would say that on New Year's Eve, her and her husband would sit down or was it Kimmy? Somebody told me this once that, and I thought it was just so genius. They were like, on New Year's Eve, we sit down after the kids are in bed and we, that's what we do for the new year is like we plan our New Year's vacation.
I love that.
I thought that was so like romantic and sweet. And maybe that's me just being like, honey, let's plan more vacations together.
That's a great idea. I think I'm going to start that tradition next year. It's so like,
let's make it a tradition. I love it. Whoever that was, if you're watching this, like message me because I want to give you credit because I thought that was so clever and like good for you guys. I hope you still do it, whoever that is.
Great idea. And like, I feel like by the time we're at New Year's, we are like already in the dregs of winter and we're tired of being cold. And so it's the perfect time to like dream about where you wish you could be.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
The thing to look forward to for the rest of the year, right? Or like the rest of the winter. You have this thing that's now ahead of you that you're working towards, that you're thinking about. And so instead of just like, now I got to pay off our credit card debt from Christmas, you can be like, hey, now we're putting aside money for our vacation. You know, it's like a positive thing you can be working towards. Yeah. Especially I have really bad seasonal affective disorders. So like the winter months, oh my goodness. As a matter of fact, now that we're kind of past the stage of having smaller kids and like kids in school and all of this, we're transitioning to, we want to have a vacation in the winter every year, like February, like middle of winter, or like almost towards the end of winter when you're like, I cannot take another day of this cold, dark, rainy, wet weather. I need something bright and sunny and an escape. And so that's become a new tradition for us. But if that's not in your life, if you're a summer vacationer, then definitely you need to be planning your vacation, like to get the best deals, to make sure you get the place you want, you know, before it's sold out or whatever. Like up through February, we recommend like December through February is the time to book your vacation.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We definitely booked our summer vacation in like April of last year.
Oh, you mean for that summer?
Yeah. And then we went in like June and it was a little bit stressful.
Was it stressful?
Yeah, it really was.
Every year I have clients that are calling me like at the end of April and they're like, oh my gosh, school's gonna be out in like 6 weeks or less, you know? And they're panicking because they still haven't booked their vacation because they hadn't decided something or they were waiting on something, you know, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, summer's going to be here like in a minute. And then like, especially lately, just the last couple of years, we've seen like cruises fill up, like really, like I'm on the phone with a cruise line going, I can't get them in. And they're like, yeah, it's because we're full. There aren't any rooms, or we've got one room left. And I'm like, well, it's a family of 5 or 6. Like that's not going to work. Yeah, you're going to have to pick a different cruise. Like that's not going to work. So if you're like, we can only vacation on this 1 week because it's the only week that everything falls into place with all of our schedules. Oh, you better be planning that earlier. Do not be calling us in April and thinking we're going to, I mean, obviously call us. We will do our best, but you're going to wish you had called me in February.
You're going to be paying higher prices and you're going to have a hard time finding what you
And
what you want
and
to
you
find.
are paying higher prices,
Mm-hmm.
and you may not see that, but I know it. I know you are, and that's so hard because I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to be like, "Oh, you should have called me in February because I could save you like $2,000." But that is reality, friends. If you're hearing this in April, you need to
Get
be
on it. Get
planning
on it
ahead
now.
for next year. Give me a call because I want to save you that money. Nobody wants to pay more than they have to. I mean, obviously, nobody wants to pay more than they have to. We don't want you to either. So, okay. So starting out, if you can, when you can, plan your summer vacations before spring break.
Yes.
That's a good rule.
That's a good
Before
rule.
spring break.
Yeah. And I love the New Year's Eve thing.
I think that's sweet.
Yeah, that's fun.
Let's make that a tradition.
Of course, when you think about summer, everybody thinks about going to the beach.
Beaches.
That's what I think about. Being a
Yeah,
girl
you're a
from
beach
Florida.
girl.
I'm a beach girl for sure. So, for me personally, I usually just think about a domestic town where we live in Alabama. Everybody goes south to like the Gulf Coast of Florida. That's everybody's favorite beach place, and the beaches there are absolutely beautiful. They really are. In like Destin and Panama City Beach,
I mean,
pretty water.
we used to vacation in Alabama on the coast.
Yeah.
We used
Gulf
to go down. It
Shores.
was cheaper. It was closer because we were coming from the Midwest. Closer. It's a little cheaper, but the beaches in Florida are prettier. We won't lie.
Well, on the Gulf Coast, so I grew up on the Atlantic coast in
Mhm.
Jacksonville, and the beaches there are not as pretty. I'll be honest. You get better waves, but the water is not as clear. But it's still beautiful. Just doesn't have that turquoise blue water that you want to find.
One of my favorite places we ever vacationed in Florida was Sanibel Island on the coast of Florida. And it's so beautiful. I feel like it's the best of all of those things, right?
Yeah, it is beautiful.
Is the Gulf side, but the beaches were so pretty and miles of beaches. It felt like you felt like a huge beach that you could just walk forever. And it's a little island. I don't know. It's just sweet. We went on dolphin tours, and like our kids saw dolphins for the first time. Like, what a sweet memory that was. My kids were little then. We should go back sometime. But anyway, there are so many really neat places.
And of course, not just Florida, California, if you're on the West Coast, or even like South Carolina, North Carolina beaches,
The Carolinas have some great places. And also, we used to live in Virginia Beach, and we've lived quite a bit on the East Coast. So in Virginia Beach, that's a really neat place too. If you want to blend like a beach vacation with like history, that area is just rich. You're really close to Williamsburg. You can go down to First Flight, right, where they in North Carolina, where they had the first flight ever. I mean, it's all within an easy drive, so you could do like a whole week and do like little day trips and also have time at the beach. So that's a neat area. And then up in the north, like in Maine, oh my goodness, if you're not like a hot lay on the sand kind of person, but you want to be near the ocean and have like a cute little beach town feel, some of the little towns on the coast of Maine are so adorable.
Yes.
And there's really fun things to do there. And like my kids love tide pools, which is a whole different kind of beach than big sandy beaches. And so we would walk the beaches that had the big tide pools, and they would look at the crabs and the little octopus, and just, there's so many fun things to do. America has so much great coastline. And
yeah, I love the New England area too. It's just so beautiful. And like you said, not everybody wants like the heat of, like a southern beach, and the New England area is a great like option if you're not a heat person. And
there are some places that are really restful too, where we would sit in the evening and just, you're hearing the waves and it's just calm, and you're reading a book under a little quilt because it gets cool in the evenings, even in the summer sometimes. And, and I've heard it's that way up in Michigan too. I need to vacation in Michigan. A couple of summers ago, Michigan was the hot spot to go on vacation. Everybody was going to Michigan, so sometimes we're craving cooler air, we're like, I'm sick of the heat, especially in the deep South. We get really sick of it.
Yeah.
Or if you're living in the big cities, you want some cool air. So going up north by the water is just a beautiful way to spend a week week, especially if you're looking more for like relaxation, quaint.
Yeah, there's
Farmers market.
quaint cute little towns up there. Yeah,
exactly.
for sure. There's also, like, of course, tropical Caribbean islands. Interestingly, though, like when I went to the island in St. Vincent, the summertime was actually their off season. So they call it it's like their rainy season, even though it doesn't really rain that much. And honestly, it's hot, but it's pretty much just the same temperature all the time. But really, like, the winter is more their busy tourist season. So it's kind of nice because if you go in the summer, things are a little bit calmer and quieter and stuff, but still beautiful. And you just have to know that it might be more rainy than, other times of the year. But
which, in that case, just make sure that where you're staying has such lovely rooms that you're happy to spend the afternoon during the rainstorm. Because even in those tropical climates, it's usually not raining all day.
Yeah.
It's usually like a couple of hours in the afternoon, and then it's beautiful again, And so, I mean, not always, obviously, but a lot of times that's the case in the tropics. So
honestly, that's how it is in Florida too. Growing up in Florida, like, we having a storm, like a thunderstorm in the afternoon was pretty much like part of our
normal.
Yeah. So
I think as long as you're making sure that you enjoy your space that you're booking, then you're going to enjoy those moments. Like, that's a little downtime. That's a siesta. You're on vacation.
Right.
Take a break.
Nap time.
Yeah.
Read a book, color.
Just
sit on the porch and listen to the rain.
Or have like a late lunch. Like, let that be your lunchtime and you're sitting in the beautiful restaurant watching the rain move through, So,
There's also like Southeast Asia. You always see like those pictures of like
very popular
Bali.
Yes. The Maldives, Thailand. We hear a lot of chatter about Thailand. Yes. So the trick with all of those, I'm sure if you are a fan of travel, which I'm assuming if you found us, that you're a fan of travel. And so you're probably following some great people on TikTok or Instagram who are posting these incredible destinations. The trick with those is they're often affordable. Like, the hotel or the resort would be more affordable than what we're used to thinking of here in the States, but you're paying for it in your flights. Definitely. Like, the expense to travel to the other side of the planet, let's just be real, like, the distance is so far, that's where the big expense comes. Once you're there, you can really enjoy it. And so I think when people get the most value out of a trip like that is when they can combine maybe two locations. Like, if you have 2 weeks of vacation, that is really, I think, the trick, is if you're going to go that far, go to Thailand and Bali, go to the Maldives and my in-laws, the first time they were ever in that region, they were going to New Zealand. And it was kind of work adjacent for them, and they had some things they needed to do, but it was obviously an incredible trip because they're going to New Zealand. But they were able to, since we're already over here, look how cheap it is for us to go for a week to Tahiti from New Zealand instead of from the US. So a place that they never thought they could go, they were able to go to because they were already on that side of the planet. So, if you were to go to like Australia and then go to the Maldives, for example, that would be much more affordable than trying to just go from here. So things to keep in mind, that if you are going to go to the other side of the planet, if you could take 2 weeks, see 2 things while you're there, go to 2 places, have double the fun.
Yeah. And let's be honest, like, if you're going to spend, 24, 36 hours traveling, you want to be there longer than 3 days or something. You really want to make it worth that travel time.
And I think I'm gonna speak into this a little bit too. Like, if you're gonna go somewhere like Thailand, okay, for example, it's just really popular right now. So Thailand, there are resorts there that are advertising like $36 a night, like super. And you're looking at the photos and you're like, this place looks amazing for how is that possible, and then obviously they have some that are higher up. And so, dig in, look carefully at what you're getting for those prices, read the reviews, please read recent reviews, please. Definitely work with a travel agent if you're going to be really brave and go somewhere you've never, ask for an expert to help narrow it down. And then the other thing is, if you are just like, we work with a lot of people who are really brave travelers and they want to see it, and they're like, we'll figure it out when we get there. It's not a big deal. And but there are plenty of us who are not super brave, and we're like, we want to see the world, but we kind of do want somebody to hold our hand if we're going somewhere that's a little scary. And that's not a big deal. And scary could just be like, scary doesn't have to be dangerous. Scary could just be like, this is out of my comfort zone. What if I don't like the food? Really, that stops people from traveling a lot. Things like that, like normal things. What if I can't figure out how to like get a cab? Normal things that to one person might not be intimidating, to another is like a complete halt. They cannot figure out how to move forward. And that's not something to be ashamed of, but like that's where working with a travel agent can help, because we can connect you with resources like local guides or tour companies who are going to literally handle every detail. They're like, we're only eating in restaurants we have vetted. We're only staying in hotels we know are safe and beautiful. We're only going to take you on the tours that are with locals who really know their stuff, and we know you're safe and you're going to have a great time and learn everything you wanted to learn, things like that. So those are some options. If you're like, I want to be brave, but I don't know if I want to do this by myself, there are ways to see the world without having to just go off to some foreign country by yourself.
Yeah.
If that's something that worries you.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Where else do you think of when you have like summer beach travel? Like,
well, I'm always thinking of Europe. If we have a choice, we will either go on a cruise. This summer, we're taking our family on a cruise, which is something we haven't done before. We have a lot to celebrate, so we're taking our girls on their first cruise. So that's one. There's a lot of great cruises that are happening in the summer, both here and abroad. Mm-hmm. So the Caribbean, obviously super popular and more accessible. They're putting in more ports, more cruise lines are expanding to those new ports. So we have, more people sailing out of Texas, and which is so much easier for people in the middle of the country. And more ports happening along the East Coast than we used to. And we're also seeing cruise lines that had traditionally only worked in kind of what we think of as like the Caribbean mostly, now doing a lot of West Coast too.
Yes.
So that makes it easier for more of America to enjoy cruising. So that's nice. But the other thing is European travel is extremely popular during the summer months, mostly just because of, people being out of school and being free to travel during those months. We see a huge uptick in European travel. It's not, if you were to ask me, like, when's the best time to go to Europe? That's not when I would say. But the reality is for a lot of us, that is the only time we can really easily travel, especially during a certain season of life. Or if you are a teacher, which I was at a time, then that's your break. That's when you're off. And so that makes sense. This year, I would say, if you haven't planned your vacation yet, just mark Italy off your list. Make that's next year's trip. Don't go this year. This year is going to be so busy with the Jubilee happening in Italy. And so I'm recommending, if it's not like a dire situation, then maybe just wait till next year. Unless this is your life's goal, is to go during a Jubilee year. Then obviously that's different. But otherwise, I would say just hold off. Let's do that another year. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to be less crowded. You're going to have more fun. So this is not the year to just go to Italy. And then the other thing I would say is Mediterranean cruising is really expanding. It used to be really kind of like, I don't know, at least I perceived it as you only have these options. It's like these 3 countries if you're going Mediterranean. It's not like that anymore. It's very expansive. As a matter of fact, it can be really overwhelming. If you aren't really sure what you're looking for, the options are pretty broad.
Yeah.
So what countries do you want to see? What do you really want to experience? What is your goal? But that's a great way, by the way, to see some of, like if you were hoping to go to Italy this year, that would be a great alternative. It's like go maybe do Mediterranean cruise. You're kind of like adjacent, but a great option. And a lot of them go one way. So you have an option to say, do I want to fly into this town or that town to start? So a lot of options there if you're curious about the Mediterranean.
Yeah, I think it's like a good cruising cruising the Mediterranean's a good like way to get a kind of an overview, or hit a lot of places in an easy way where you're
and once again, you have someone else who's the expert who's kind of guiding the whole process, right. And you're not having to let's say you want to see 3 countries, but you don't speak any of those languages and you're worried about that. Well, what a nice thing. If you're going on a cruise, then you have someone that's guiding you through that whole process. You are staying in the same room every night, even though you're going to multiple countries. I mean, that's a benefit right there.
Yeah.
So, and then, the comfort of, being on a cruise ship where you're going to be able to find a burger and fries. On the night you're like, I can't try one more foreign thing. I want to eat something familiar. You're going to be able to get something familiar. So there's a lot of benefits, I think, to cruising, especially though if you're like, I want to see Europe, but I really want to go to the beach. Great option. Great way to make sure you get to do both, I think.
Yeah.
That's not my preference. I would rather go in October during harvest in the Italian mountains. I mean, that's my kind of perfect vacation. But obviously, there's a lot to be said for Mediterranean cruising. It's on my wish list for the future.
Yeah, me
just
too.
keep bumping it because of other things I want to do instead.
Me too. Yeah. So the other thing, at least for our family, what we've kind of done traditionally is either we go to the beach in the summer or we go to the mountains. We kind of trade off. So let's talk about mountain. I feel like there's beach people and there's mountain people.
Yeah,
I'm a beach person. My dad was a mountain person for sure. He was not a big beach person. So, we kind of traded off and
that's nice
to meet everybody's needs. I know, let's see, last summer we went to North Carolina, to the mountains in North Carolina. Beautiful. And yeah, it was so pretty. And
Appalachia is just gorgeous in general. Yeah.
It was fun and there was just so much to do outdoors and we had a blast. So, here in the States, of course, Tennessee, North Carolina, that area, we have mountains and then, Yellowstone, Grand Tetons, just that whole national park.
We always enjoyed going to the Smokies. Of course, this last year they had a huge natural disaster. So there's still some areas that are kind of messy and they rely on tourism. So that can be difficult. So just do your research before you go, know what's open and available and what's not, because if you've gone before and you're hoping to see something that maybe is not ready or open yet, just do your research before you go. I want you to be happy with your vacation, but we also don't want to discourage people from going to areas that rely on that tourism income, so there's a delicate balance there, kind of like after Hawaii had all their issues with fire in Maui, there's a delicate balance between we need our time and space to recover, but also we need the money that we rely on for, so that's a difficult thing in any area that's had a natural disaster that is normally reliant on tourism. So keep that in mind. Another option though would be maybe to try the West this year. There's so much to see in the Rockies is a great example. There's so many fun things to do there, especially if you are a family that's traveling. You can there are ghost towns, there are silver mines, there are little old West towns and museums and things, but there's also lots of natural resources to explore, mountain climbing and zip lining and whitewater rafting and all kinds of incredible, really fun things to do in the Rocky Mountains. And there are some really unique places to stay too. There are not only some really neat hotels and cabins that you can rent as a family, but also places like YMCA of the Rockies, which has both cabins and more dorm rooms. You can go as a whole group if you wanted to take a whole group. There's some really neat things there. And then they have their own activities there too. So there's some really neat options if you're wanting to explore the mountains. Last last year we went to the Grand Tetons for the first time. My son was working up there, and what a beautiful part of our country that is. I had never been that far in that direction. And so it's really, if you're at the Grand Tetons, it only takes like maybe, I feel like it was from where we were, it was maybe like a 20 or 30-minute drive into Yellowstone from there. So you can see both parks at the same time, like in the same week easily. And also from there, we went into, you're not far from Cheyenne, Wyoming. You're not far from, all of a sudden, all the names of places are escaping me. There's a lot to see, is what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of really interesting things to see. And if you're driving that direction, the diversity of landscape is astounding. I mean, halfway, we were well into Wyoming, and I'm like, how are we going to get to what he's saying we're going into? Like, I don't understand how this is going to turn into that. There's like areas of desolation, like there's nothing, and it looks like plants are having a hard time living. Like, how is this going to be this vibrant forested area? And then sure enough, all of a sudden you're in a forest, national forest, and then there's mountains, and I don't know, it's extremely diverse and interesting, and the animals are right there. Bison and elk, and oh my goodness, it was just such an experience. And I don't think of myself as a super, like, I don't, how do I say that nicely? Like, I'm not great at the outdoors.
Outdoorsy. You're indoorsy.
Not outdoorsy at all. My son was very disappointed because he wanted us to go hiking and stuff. And I'm like, or we could just sit here and take photos, like I was not great at that, too much to his dismay. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And what a great way to spend a summer day, especially when the sun is setting in a place like that. Like, it just takes your breath away. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So the mountains are special for that reason. Yeah.
Yeah. And another, like, it's a good option, again, if you aren't a big heat person,
Yes.
spend your summer in the mountain and not
because in the evenings it was comfortable. I mean, if anything, we would, want to wrap up a little, and it was so beautiful. And now there are also a lot of other alternatives. If you're not a big road tripper, there are some really neat options for the train. You could have a train excursion. I mean, what a fun adventure, right?
Yeah.
Going into the Wild West or up through the mountains on a train. And last year I had clients who took the train up to Glacier National Park.
That sounds amazing.
What an adventure. And they went from the south. They left from Memphis, and they did an overnight train that stopped in Chicago. They had a whole day. They could explore Chicago, and then they get back on at Union Station and go up into Glacier National Park. They stayed at the historic lodge. I mean, what an incredible adventure that was for them. So that was a very easy thing to arrange, and it was all taken care of, and their meals and everything were included on the train. It was really special. So that, there's a lot of different ways to spend your summer vacation, kind of thinking outside the box. And then I think the other thing a lot of families are doing, of course, is still Disney and Universal Studios. This summer, Universal Studios is expanding and opening a new park in May, and everybody's very excited. It includes some new Harry Potter sites, and then it also includes one of the things we were excited to see was the How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
Island Park. So how fun would that be? So
it looks so cool.
Yeah, it does look very cool. All their promotional stuff looks amazing. We're very excited, and I had been planning to go this summer, and then we've had a lot of other fun family things happen instead. So we're gonna have to put that off until next year. That is really fun. They're expecting, Universal Studios is obviously expecting large crowds this summer. So if you've been wanting to go to Disney and you haven't, or you haven't in a while, this would be a great year.
Yeah.
Go to Disney, because they're expecting it to be a little less crowded because more families are maybe going over to Universal. So, I mean, we'll see if that really happens, but that's what we think. That's what everyone is saying is probably going to happen this summer. So if you're looking for less crowds, maybe this
in
year go to
Disney.
Disney instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we talked about so far has been kind of like off, out of the city, out of, where mountain beach kind of. Sometimes people like to do like a city trip in the summer. So, like Chicago or Seattle maybe, or New York City. I love Boston. Boston's one of my favorite cities. What are your favorite cities? I'm sure it's a European. What are your favorite cities in Europe,
Oh, it's hard because I don't really like to be in those cities in the summer. It's going to be hot and crowded. Well, let's just talk honestly. I mean, I don't want to just sell you on the good stuff. Let's tell you honestly. Like, honestly, you're Paris, for example. Paris in the summer is going to be very hot and crowded and uncomfortable. Some of the iconic places might have smells that you don't appreciate. And the hotels you're going to want to be careful about choosing your hotels because, especially, I mean, as Americans, I'm speaking to Americans mostly here, but Americans are used to air conditioning, for example.
Yeah.
And a little more space in our hotel rooms than what are often available, especially in the city center of Paris, where those buildings could be hundreds of years old and they have retrofitted them to become hotel rooms and have done an incredible job doing that. By the way, amazing when you really think about what they had to have done to put bathrooms, for example, in buildings that were built in the 1700s, maybe. It's incredible. But it can be uncomfortable. And I think when we hear Americans complaining about a trip to Paris, often it comes down to those kinds of things. Our expectations based on our experiences in America or in hotels and resorts built by Americans for Americans in other places. And then we go to a city like this where, they just have a different expectation of what is normal. They don't have air conditioning prevalent in their homes, in their businesses. So it's just not normal. They don't tend to get as hot as we do overall. When I lived in France, we would have like one seriously hot week. And it really only felt super hot because the air would stop moving. We didn't have a breeze and we don't have air conditioning. And so everything would just feel hot and miserable for one whole week. And then it was beautiful the rest of the summer. But for that week, we were miserable and so unhappy and felt bad if we had guests over, but to be trapped in a city where we know temperatures are hotter in cities and the air doesn't move as well.
And you have a lot of people.
And you're walking,
yeah,
or you're on a bus. It's going to be hot and stinky. Okay. And I say that with love, Paris. Don't come after me. I say that with love, but that's why I like to go in October if I'm taking you to Paris. Because it's going to be more comfortable. But the nice thing is to be in the countryside. So gorgeous. So gorgeous. If you're in the US in a city, I definitely recommend Seattle. Oh my goodness. So gorgeous. And in the summer, what a great time to go. I lived in Maine. And so obviously I think being up in the Northeast is incredible. I really, really enjoy Portland, Maine. And you're right, Massachusetts is a really fun place to visit. There's just some really neat locations up in the Northeast to explore. And we're big road trippers in our family. So like if you get us somewhere and then put us in a car, we can explore. That's what we're going to do. But yeah, I kind of wish we had Cassie on because she would have opinions on this too. I know she would. She's seen so much of America. Yeah. What's your favorite city to explore, Kimmy?
Like I said, I really love Boston. It's a very like walkable city and has really good public transportation. And even if one of the times I went, I stayed with a friend of mine and he actually lived like not in Boston, but their public transportation is so good that we could take the train all the way from where he lived into the city, spend the day in the city just walking and using public transportation, and then take the train back out of the city. It's just, I love the big tall buildings. Like I grew up in the cities. I'm like a city girl at heart, and just I love love being in the hustle and bustle and all the people
Oh,
and the
that's
buildings
fun.
and there you have like so much history.
That's true.
And
No, I
that
need to get you to Europe if that's how you
I
feel.
know. Oh, I definitely, yeah, I need to go to
Oh
Europe.
my gosh.
I need to
Yeah.
go see all the
Hustle,
art.
bustle, history. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to
All the
be
art.
in Europe. Last year, we had a lot of people visiting like Iceland and Norway. The last 2 years those have been really popular. So I wonder if it kind of relates to like us seeing an uptick in Minnesota, like people from the South wanting to go up to Minnesota. I don't know, like maybe just people wanting to be in a colder climate during the summer.
I noticed too, like Montana, kind of that area
It's
was
interesting to
really
me.
popular.
I don't feel like that. I'm not saying those places have not been, I mean, obviously those are places that have been visited for many years, but I feel like we're hearing more chatter in our area in the South. So
yeah,
we're
I agree.
in different
Yeah.
states, but I've had a lot of friends, abnormal number of friends go to Norway all in the same summer. And I was like, what is happening? Like Norway is getting some attention. I don't know where that's coming from, but like people that didn't know each other were all going within like a couple of weeks of each other. I thought that was very interesting.
Banff was another place that seemed really oddly popular.
A resurgence of interest in these places. Yeah.
So I do think maybe it's like the southern states are kind of like, hey, let's try something besides just going to the beach and go up north.
Let's do. Yeah, go somewhere you haven't been. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of that anyway. I think we see families going to the same vacation over and over, and definitely the generation before us, we grew up, if we were going on vacation, a lot of us went to the same like 2 or 3 places over and over and over. You know, like this is our family tradition. We go to the beach and we stay here and we eat at this restaurant and we do this on this day, you know, or, you know, families that go to Disney every year and they do this and, you know, this is their family tradition for summer. So I feel like maybe we're seeing a shift in that. Families saying, okay, well, what if we, hear me out, went somewhere different? Something we've never seen before. Show our children something new. You know, I love the idea. I love the idea of both family tradition. Beautiful, beautiful. I also love the idea of like, let's see something new. Let's explore the world. So there's not a right or wrong here. Both are beautiful. But I think it'll be exciting if we see more Americans exploring. Like, let's go somewhere. Let's see something we haven't seen before. Let's do something new, whether that's in our country or somewhere else. That's a beautiful idea.
Yeah.
So
I think that's something we're going to talk about in the future too, is like how traveling, you know, changes us as travelers.
Yeah, we should definitely do an episode about the things and maybe sometime when we can all be on, because I want to hear everybody's ideas about how they've been affected by travel, because I know that that's a very personal thing. And so, yeah, definitely.
Well, we are actually coming to the end of our time.
Well, if you haven't booked your summer vacation,
you're
give
late.
us a call. We do free vacation discovery calls. We will help you sort it out before it's too late.
Yeah, now is the time for sure. But, you know, like I said, we've talked about a lot of different places, or a lot of different options. So, you know, maybe if your beach destination is booked up or your cruise is full, like, let's look at some of these other options and, you know, maybe something a little less traditional that we can hook people up with.
And we can always plan ahead for next year to go to the place you were really, if your cruise is full that you really wanted to do, let's book it for next year and find you somewhere exciting to go this year.
Yeah. So I found this quote that I really liked. It says, "Summer is the time for squandering outdoors. In the long days, you can afford to be generous." And I love that. That's my favorite thing about summer, is just like having the sunshine for so long and being able to stay out till 9 o'clock at night and it's still sunny.
Or later if you're in the Northeast.
Oh, perfect.
So
I'll take as much sun as I can. So, you know, we always have our end of the podcast question. What destination is on your mind this week? So what do you have, Heather?
Yes, talking about summer, Bimini, Bahamas.
Ooh, okay.
It's so easy to get to from Florida, but you're in the Bahamas. And
beautiful, tropical.
Blue water.
Yes. Yes. I think I'm really thinking about Boston because we've been talking about it.
Yeah.
I haven't been there.
Yeah,
I haven't been there in a long time.
me either. It's been a few years. So I was interested.
It's a great place to visit. So, well, now that you have heard where our minds are this week, you guys let us know where your mind is traveling. You can comment on our Facebook page and let us know. We'd love to hear from you, and you can connect with us on your favorite social media by using @TravelBugGirls. You can join our VIP group. You'll find us in Facebook groups under TBG Travel Bugs or at facebook.com/groups/TBG Travel Bugs. Find us on there. We really love to hear from
us.
Yeah, from
we
our
excited for you.
We love to interact and answer questions, and hope you guys book your trip. So everybody have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, Heather.
See you later, friends.